Also this afternoon, the Affirmative Action Bill Coalition is pushing for the replacement of the Gender Minister and Social Protection Minister as well. Sarah Jasafo doubles as Member of Parliament for Dom Kwabenya. The reason for this demand is on the backdrop of the failure in the passage of the Affirmative Action Bill into law by Parliament. The bill actually seeks to increase women's representation in decision-making when passed into law, but has been put on the shelf for a very long time. Convener of the coalition, Sheila Menka Premo, tells Joy News in an interview that it has become pressing for the bill to be passed immediately due to the rising cases of discrimination against women in the country.
I was a member of the technical committee that was put together as far as 2011 to work on the bill. We did a deck study and found out that a lot of groups, including the Women in Public Life project, which had been sponsored by DFID, had done extensive research all over the country among different sectors, and they came up with the conclusion that women are discriminated against when it comes to leadership positions. Apart from that, Professor Georgie Chikata had also done some work with sponsorship, I think, from FES, which also confirmed that there's a lot of research out there which confirms this. Besides that, there are other international fora where they measure a country's, gender when it comes to compliance. One is the Interparliamentary Union, which measures where every country is periodically. And for a number of years now, Ghana is really down. When you go to, if you check on their platform, you will find out that Ghana's number is not very well. And today we also heard from CDD, other indexes, all shows that when it comes to gender, we are really down. And there are also some obvious information out there. In our parliament now, we have out of a parliament of 275, we have only 40 women. The previous one had about 30 something, so that was 13.something%. So from a little scanning from existing literature and from the scanning of numbers, I have a table which shows you the numbers of cabinets, local governments. It shows you others, and in all of them, the numbers, women's numbers is down. Yes. You're worried about the SDG 5 Ghana has signed to it. It is projected that by 2030 it should meet that target. How worried are you that as of now, the Affirmative Action Bill has not been passed into law? Are we likely to lose out of that? We as an advocacy group, we are very worried because we think that it's very important that Ghana takes the steps to ensure that we comply with this very important instrument agreed on by the whole world, which is the Sustainable Development Goals, particularly Goal 5, which shows that by the year 2030, when it comes to key leadership positions, countries should have reached parity. From the way things are going, we are in 2022 now, using even cabinet as using parliament as a measure, we are at 14.45. A lot will have to be done, to enable us to get to parity by the year 2030. The same with, I think, among the ministers, cabinet ministers, there's supposed to be 19 according to the constitution. I think there are 5 who are women. Okay, if you look at the Council of State, the numbers is also the same. I think that we have a table which also looks at the chief directors, which is the highest administrative bodies within various government ministries at the executive level. The numbers are also more men. If you look at the judiciary at the highest, I think even from the Supreme Court all the way down, I think it is only in the Court of Appeal. I was on a panel last week. It's only at the Court of Appeal where the numbers are almost the same. At the Supreme Court, the men outnumber the women. At the High Court as well. The numbers are slowly increasing, but we still haven't reached parity in several areas. And in most boards, state boards, there's usually the token 1 or 2 women, as compared to the men on the board. So we still have a long way to catch up. The last one has to do with the Minister for Gender. We know that she will be a propelling factor to get this bill passed into law. She has not been in office for a very long time. What are your demands? Well, as I said, this bill was signed by her, so it is a bill, it's a bill coming from the executive, and it was signed by the Minister for Gender. So if she was around, I believe that a cabinet she would be in a position to push it. So we are urging His Excellency the President to either ensure that she's in place to see to her responsibilities, including pushing for this bill, or if she's not going to be available, an alternative person is made available to ensure that this bill, among others, is passed.
Should the President Akufo-Addo, get a new minister? Is that your demand, your ultimate demand? Because you need to pass this law urgently.
I think that we are in June now. I think the minister has been away for over a year. So if there are challenges to get her back, I think that, personally, I think that if it is possible for her to be replaced so that we have a substantive person in place. Yes, we have a caretaker minister, but she has another ministry that she's fully responsible for. So making time for our ministry, I think she's also trying, but it may be difficult. So yes, if you have a substantive minister fully in place, it would really help to push a lot of things, including this particular important bill.
Well, so be in place or be replaced. That's the call from the coalition. Fortunately, we've been joined by the convener of the coalition, Sheila Menka Premo. Thank you for joining us here on The Pulse. But just before we start our conversation, luckily, we were able to have a conversation with the minister as to why she's not been in office for quite some time. I'd want you to listen to her justification, and then we'll get your reactions to that.
Friends in our, with government, the executive power and the parliamentary duty that I have. And at that time, I had sent out things that I had to send out to the religious leaders in my constituency. And so that video definitely was for the constituents. And so I restricted myself to the people of Dominicana. And as the president of the republic, he will wish the whole country. So that's the difference. And that's the reason why you didn't hear me mention.
Right. But even the seats that you hold, the Dominicana seat, is under siege, as some are describing it. You're indicating to us that at least you've not been served. The committee may go ahead and pass whatever sanction it is that they intend to do. Are you not worried that you may lose the Dom Kobinya seat, particularly as the Speaker of Parliament, who even belongs to another political party, could simply go ahead and say you've breached the 15-day rule and then go ahead to declare your seat as vacant?
I am not worried because I am very, very prayerful, and I don't believe only in the physical. I also believe in the spiritual. And I know my Lord knows exactly why I am not there, and he's going to fight my battle. So as we say, and have always said, the battle is still the Lord's, and the Lord is going to fight my battle. I'm not worried at all. Even in my third term election, nobody thought I would win, because you know exactly the situation that I was in. Nobody thought I could win. Even my primaries, people thought I couldn't win. But God made me win. So God is the final say.
Also, her justification on that, it appears she needs to take care of some pressing family issues. That's been the official position ever since we heard from the minister. But for you, Sheila, what's your take on all of this? What option should be the priority of the president at this moment? Sheila, I'm just asking about the position of the coalition. What should be the priority of the president at this moment? Replacing her or trying to get her in place to pass the affirmative action bill?
Thank you very much. As far as we are concerned, we would like to see the bill passed. So whichever way that we can get a minister in place to push the bill will be fine with us. Whichever way that His Excellency the President finds most convenient to ensure that that ministry is well catered for, and among others, the minister will then push to have this law in place. It will be fine with us.
That the president has put in sufficient measures. We have a caretaker minister who has been acting in that capacity for quite some time now. Why not target her, try and get her to do some magic, at least, quote unquote, to get the affirmative action bill passed? At
a seminar today, we did indicate that we are in touch with the caretaker minister, who has promised us to make this also a priority to push. So we are also pursuing that angle. Okay, we know that women generally have challenges. Even women in leadership, they have challenges where they have to balance, responsibilities as mothers, as wives, etc., with other things. So we are not just saying that the minister, His Excellency the President should replace her. We are saying that if she has challenges, then the other options should be looked at. And the current option in place is the caretaker minister, and we are in touch with her and lobbying her to try to push for this bill at the cabinet level. And she's quite receptive.
And what has been your diagnosis of the situation itself, the reason for which we've not been able to get our members of parliament to pass this critical piece of legislation?
First of all, the bill is not in parliament. The bill is still at the cabinet level, okay? Since we started working on the bill from 2011, it did go to parliament in October 2016. This was just before the election in 2016, so they didn't get the chance to process it, and then it lapsed. So the whole process for looking at the draft again and updating was continued from 2017 to date. So from 2017 to date, it hasn't gone to parliament yet. It's still at cabinet level. Sometimes feedback comes to address some parts of it. We've worked with some of the ministers in that particular ministry to address it. So it still hasn't gone to parliament yet. So what we are pushing is that cabinet should complete work on it and lay it in parliament as soon as possible. That is our focus. Basically, since the draft of this bill started in 2011, we've had 6 different ministers for gender. So that's in the period of 10 years, 6 different ministers. Usually when they come and are appointed, they need to, it's a very big ministry, women, children, and social protection. So they need to acclimatize themselves with all the issues on the different mandates that they have. And once they do realize that this affirmative action is one of the key things, they do pick up on it, but it takes a while. So for me, the 6 over the period has been one of the reasons why possibly it has also sort of delayed. And looking at now, we are saying that it's something that should be made a priority, primarily because, as you said, one of the yardsticks that is being used to get this in place is the Sustainable Development Goals, particularly Goal 5, which talks about parity by the year 2030. And the way we are going, if we don't get the bill in place as soon as possible, it's not likely that we'll be able to, as far as this particular issue is concerned, we'll be able to reach that parity, particularly in all the 3 arms of government and also in the private sector as well. So
and I guess this is not just about, and I guess this is not just about the goals itself. It's about the implication on freeing up the space and giving equal opportunity to women across the country. For many who see this as something which is not feasible for us to achieve as a society or as a people, what's your response to such persons and groups of people who believe that let's allow the system to stay as it is? And
you're absolutely correct.
Representation in parliament by women.
It should stay as it is. We need to improve. We need to move on. We need inclusion for development. Sustainable development is all you're talking about. We need inclusion. The last population census that was held showed that majority of the people in this country are women. But when leadership roles, you see very few of them there. We need both voices, the voices of both men and women, to enable us to have sustainable development. So we think that this bill is sort of aimed at bringing gender equality, making sure that in all key areas we have, as much as possible, equal numbers of men and women to take decisions that would ensure the good development of this country. So for me, it's a very good course that we are following, and would ask all Ghanaians to join us in pushing for this.
And what's more staggering is that at the press event today, you were also pointing out how many more women have become vulnerable in this era as well, and partly that could be the reason why, I mean, we should be pushing for the bill. Give us a picture of why the essence and why it's become much more important to push through this bill, which will connect to dealing with some of those critical matters that you point to, the increasing attack on women across the country.
As I indicated, it's good to have an inclusive government. You know, when it comes to leadership, we need inclusion, so that we have both men and women at critical places to take decisions. At the press conference, we looked more at the justification for this bill. We already talked about the Sustainable Development Goals, and our own constitution, Article 17 of the Constitution, prohibits discrimination on the basis of gender. But it indicates clearly in Article 17(4) that where research shows that there is discrimination on the basis of gender when it comes to issues to do with economic, social, and educational imbalance, then Parliament can come up with such a law to right the wrong. And that's what we are pushing. You also look at other countries as well. Many other African countries, seeing the importance of this, have actually come up with legislation to ensure gender balance in several in their parliaments and several other places. In addition, as I've indicated, I mean, sometimes people would ask you that, there are some policies. Yes, we've had some policies like the 1998 directives on affirmative action. But the problem with policies is that a policy is not a law and can change. And sometimes it's difficult to challenge the lack of enforcement of a policy as compared to a law. So that's one of the reasons why we are pushing for this. Yes, there's been a lot of violence against women. We have legislation in place that tries to address it, and most of these legislation were actually pushed by various women's groups. So when it comes to places where people who are facing violence can get services, if we have enough women there to address their needs, we believe that they will get better a response to the violence that they suffer.
We're grateful that you've been able to spend some time with us. That's the convener of the coalition, Sheila Menka Premo. While our very own MFR Powell was also at the event. She's been making some contributions, talking about the need to empower more women and also touching on the role of the media in dealing with such matters as well. Well, we'll bring all of that to you subsequently.